So my friends, this has been long overdue. It's time for a PIONEX video, and I've been looking into it for a while now. In this video, we're also going to set up a trading bot. By now, PIONEX should be a familiar name to pretty much everyone. It's basically a platform for grid bots, one of the best, if not the best, platform for grid bots. You know, I've been trying to read up on this and get into it a bit over the past few weeks, especially because it's just a lot easier now. Still, you should have some understanding of trading. You shouldn't just blindly copy some bots and think, oh, I'm going to get rich now. That's not what this is about. You should still have at least a basic understanding of the market. In my opinion, that's really, really important. I'll talk a bit more about that in this video as well. So now we're definitely going to take a look at the platform. I'll give you a general explanation. What are the advantages? What might be the disadvantages? How will I open my trades and how will I approach this in the future? But before we get started, feel free to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel and join the Telegram group. There you'll always get the latest updates. For example, if I set up a new bot. And for everyone who doesn't have a PIONEX account yet, I was able to arrange a little something for you. For the next 26 days, everyone who registers and completes KYC2 will receive a 50 USDT futures grid bonus. So you can use that. That's basically your free bot, so to speak. Plus, there's also a deposit bonus. That means if you, earlier oops, that's not what I meant to do. I already asked 2 or 3 people which bonus you'd prefer. That's the one you chose. Deposit 100 USDT, so 100 USDT, and you'll get a 100 USDT futures grid bot. At 500, it's 300. At 1500, at 5800, and at 10,000, you get a 1000 USDT bonus trade. And I think that's really worth it for anyone who doesn't have an account yet. Just create an account and make the deposit. You don't have to use your own capital anymore. Instead, you can simply use this grid bonus. They should definitely be credited within 3 days. If there are any problems, just message me and I'll take care of it for you. But I think that's a very, very fair deal, so you can try out the whole platform and maybe even open your first grid bots. So let's go in here, and basically it's just a regular futures exchange. But as I said, for futures trading, I still use BingX and I'll stick with that. But for me, it's really all about the grid bots, and that's actually what this platform is made for. Up here, you go to futures grid in the top left. Then this platform will be displayed for you. Bitcoin, USDT. Of course, you also have the option to do this with all the others as well, XRP, Solana, Ethereum, etc. What the bot does is you choose a grid number. There are some pre-made ones. You can see that up here at Futures Bot. You just go to Futures Grid Bot, click on Create, and then, for example, 3 options will already be suggested to you here. There's a bullish trend, moderate with 5x, a balanced bullish trend with 10x, and an aggressive bullish trend with 15x. But in that case, it really does use 15x leverage, and I wouldn't recommend that to you. Especially if you're, let's say, pretty new to this and don't really have much experience with it yet. Also, as I said, you should simply have a basic understanding of the market. Then, of course, there's also the option to go short with 5x, 10x, and 15x. So we're just going to do the whole thing with moderate leverage now, because in the end, I usually don't recommend going in with over-leveraged positions here either. Of course, you also have the option to set this yourself. But honestly, that's something I personally don't really want to deal with. If anything, there are only minor adjustments, but you can also make those here. Now, since I want to build a short position over the next few weeks anyway, and we're currently at 110,000, and I still believe we're heading towards 94 or even 88K, let's just go ahead and click through. That's why you should always have at least a basic understanding of the market to get a sense of where things might be heading, and not just blindly say, yeah, I'll just go in here with a 15x leverage futures grid bot, it'll work out fine. In my opinion, that doesn't make any sense. For market phases like the ones we've seen recently, or in this phase here with sideways movement, you can of course also set up a neutral bot. But for now, we're going to set up a short bot here. We click here on copy bot. This is also the return from the last 30 days. Don't let that throw you off. It could be higher, it could be lower. So it's not a forward-looking return that's being shown here. Now we click here on CopyBot at 5 times leverage. Here you'll see everything displayed like your maximum loss, which is 35%, and the price range is 88 to 132,000 US dollars. That fits perfectly with the pattern I want. And now pay attention. If you're not satisfied here, you can also adjust it normally. That means you can set your range, and everything will also be displayed over here with these red bars. Basically, that's where it continues to add to the short position. To the downside, it sells the short position and takes profits. So that's the explanation for now. Here it has set 181 grids. I think that's fine. Of course, we then have to adjust the investment amount accordingly. You can see I currently have $350 in the account. This is just a test account for now. You need, and this is also shown to you right here at this spot, you definitely need $839 to let's say select this option. But you can also adjust the whole thing. For example, if you set it to only 100 grids here, then you need $460, or you simply set it to just 50 grids. The fewer grids you have, the less it will buy and sell, and the position size will adjust accordingly, for example. Let's adjust it now to 75 grids, then it fits exactly. We have an investment amount of $350, 5 times leverage, and then in the end, you can see your whole setup here, basically how it's supposed to work. Now you have 75 grids, it buys between 88,000 and 132,000 US dollars, and then sells downwards through all these grids. This is what the whole picture looks like, and it always adjusts automatically. You can also set a trigger price, you have slippage, take profit, and things like that. You can configure all of that. We'll just let this thing run as it is for now, because the price range actually suits me very, very well. That's how I had planned it anyway. I think at 10 times leverage, it's a bit tighter. I think with that, you're at 94 to 120K, but since we want to give the trade a bit of room to breathe, we'll just do it this way now. We click on create. Then everything is explained here again. You can see here profit of 0.41% per grid if we end up dropping downwards. Then the actual investment, reserved margin, and also the estimated liquidation price. That will be displayed to you in the end. Here you have an available balance. Of course, you can deposit or transfer it. That's up to you. You can choose to display previous grids here or not. And what else was there? I think there was something else I wanted to add. No, actually everything's fine as it is. Now it's set up the way I want it. So you still have reserved funds, of course, so you can keep buying up as the price goes up. And if you have a higher margin here, you also have the option, so to speak, to add a bit more if needed. Now let's click on create here so that the thing is set up. That's fine. You can also see down here, that was actually my test, which I wanted to quickly show you as well. I already had 100 USDT Ethereum futures grid open. That one didn't go so well. And that's what I mean. I just let it run like that. You can see for yourself, it's currently 37% in the red, and it was a neutral futures grid. And neutral means when it's moving pretty much sideways. But we had, and I want to quickly show you this as well, not really a neutral market phase here with Ethereum. I think I can quickly show you where we actually opened it, or where I personally opened it. It started here at $3,700 with an estimated liquidation price of $5,038 or $2,471. And as you can see, like I said, the thing is currently absolutely in the red. It's underwater. You should have an understanding of the market, and that's exactly why I opened it for you. Just to show you, it's really not ideal to just blindly start up some bots. This is the perfect example. I'm going to leave it open now. I can definitely handle losing $100. Now we're going back into our Bitcoin trade here. There you can also see in the end the placed orders, you see the transactions, parameters, and so on. And what's important to me here is that you can adjust the margin, you can release the profit, and you can add to the investment. All things that, in my opinion, are extremely important and that sometimes don't work on other platforms. For example, being able to add margin again or adjust your parameters. That's really, really important, and that's why I think PIONEX currently has this advantage, or rather that's generally the advantage of PIONEX. That's why I decided to go with it here, or rather, I've been evaluating it for a while now. So to sum it all up a bit, if I were you, I would only use the available bots unless you're real pros and can beat the bots. Okay, then you can also adjust them. You can make minor adjustments to them. For example, if you say, like in my case, I had 75 grids, but you think that's too few because you expect the price swings to be much, much higher up and down, then of course you can increase the number of grids. That's no problem at all here. But as I said, be a little careful when playing around with it. Second, you should absolutely have knowledge or at least some understanding of the market. As you saw, and that's why I showed this negative example, the Ethereum bot was neutral. If you don't expect a neutral market phase, like the one we actually had before with Ethereum in this cluster, then the whole thing isn't so great, because if Ethereum suddenly pumps or other altcoins pump hard without you having enough room to the upside, the whole thing goes wrong and it ends up looking like this, and you have a 37% loss. That was a perfect textbook example. I have to say, fortunately, the position wasn't stopped out, so I can show you this here again. And yes, in the end, only invest as much as you're actually willing to trade here, or as much as you're willing to lose. That's extremely, extremely important at this point. You can always see here in your settings that you can also change this for Ethereum or for BTC. With Ethereum, you actually can't see anything anymore. All the buy orders are already down there by now. But for the sake of clarity, I think the whole thing is designed really, really well. As I said, you still have the option to either create it manually here or to do futures trading. But as I said, I'm not a fan of that. You can set it yourself or copy the strategy. The higher the leverage, the more likely you are to get stopped out in the end. You need to be aware of that with this futures grid. Here too, you can lose your money, but ultimately, if you have market understanding and let's say you expect the market to go down in the coming months because of an interest rate decision, for example, you can simply let this futures grid bots run in the background and see what happens in the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments below. Feel free to sign up with PIONEX. As I said, the futures or the bonuses here are really amazing. I was actually able to get these for you and you don't even have to use your own money. It's also very important to me that when you test something like this, you can't really make a loss, in quotation marks, a loss in the end. And here in the end, you get this futures grid bonus for free. You can let it run. You can test it out, just like I did with the Ethereum bot, or you can just set up a long bot and a short bot. No, just kidding. But I actually think that's a good idea. Just sign up using the link in the video description below. If you have any questions, join the Telegram group, and then I'd say here's to good profits in the coming weeks and months, and we'll catch up in the next video. Until then, or rather tonight's live stream at 7 p.m., check it out as always. That's it from me. Until then, ciao ciao, and as always, stay crypto.